All right, we are back with The Gambler's Perspective, episode 143, UFC 325, Volkanovski versus Lopez, part 2. I'm Gianni the Greek, along with my co-host Nick Kalikas, and of course, James Lynch in the booth. He'll be joining us a bit later. Now, before we move forward, we always go backwards first here at The Gambler's Perspective, where transparency is first and foremost. Bottom line, you got to know whether we're up or down, whether we're profitable or not after 143 plus episodes. So we go over last week's show, year-to-date results, and show-to-date results. So I'll start it off since I was the big loser in the first show of 2026 with my bet on Paddy Pimblett. Puts me at minus 380 to start 2026, plus $3,307 over the 143 episodes. So plus EV overall, I'll take it. Nick, you split, but the dog got you plus 30, puts you plus 30 for 2026. Now just minus 373 overall. Bet away, brother. That's all it takes. And yeah, close to a big card for you with some of those dogs, right?
Man, they had a little bit of Allen. That fight was close for sure.
Yadong.
Yadong, that fight was close. So I feel like we made some good bets. Could have been a huge week. But I mean, we grind out those profits. So if you profit, you profit.
And I still think Tercios was the right side.
I do too, man. That was my favorite bet of the weekend as well, was Tercios, and that fight got canceled. I mean, obviously they had to. They couldn't let Smotherman go out there and compete like that. So I get it. It's just disappointing when you feel like you're on the right track and you're getting some great value and then your bet gets canceled. So that always sucks. But it happens. It's a fight game. It happens quite a bit.
It happens. And a few other things that happen as well is I know bettors and fighters alike that probably might have gotten smoked on Saturday night, Nick. And who's the winner?
There's a few candidates out there that, the bettors were wrong about for sure, but there can only be one. And this one stood out big time because of, the popularity, the slot, the main event slot, everything. So it's a no-brainer. Paddy Pimblett bettors, you guys got smoked. Unfortunately for Paddy, he still put up a good fight. I mean, it was an entertaining fight. I mean, he definitely belongs towards the top of that food chain. There's no question about it. He's a talented guy, even on the feet. I mean, his specialty is the ground game, but he hung in there, showed some toughness against Gaethje, and, had his moments as well. So hats off to Paddy. He'll bounce back. Congratulations to Justin Gaethje, by the way. It's hard not to be a huge fan of that guy. I mean, all the amazing performances that he's delivered since he's come to the UFC, even before the UFC, throughout his MMA career, that guy's been tremendous. Just seriously, highlight is the proper term for that guy because he is a human highlight reel. So hats off to Justin Gaethje. Congratulations on winning that strap that he's been chasing for a while as well. So that's how you have it. And by the way, this segment is sponsored by Triumph Cigars. So make sure you check out triumphcigars.com. Head over there and order your cigars, again, branded by some of these UFC fighters that we're talking about. So support the sport, get out there and buy some Triumph cigars, some victory cigars if you guys want some money last week.
Indeed. And we got a UFC on the line live for you coming up on Friday. But let's break down the main event, co-main event quickly, Nick, and see if we got any opinions early on. I'm going to tell you real quickly, man, I was surprised at the betting line because I saw nothing but domination in that first fight. And I'm not even talking about what the true line should be. I'm talking about what the books line should be. I thought they would bring it out higher since Volkanovski was so one-sided. But maybe the love for Lopez coupled with the recency bias of him winning like he did in his last fight, where we haven't seen Volk since the Lopez fight, adds to it. But I'm a little bit surprised that the line's not much higher than that first fight since it was so one-sided. Anything for you jump out at you?
No, I think they did a pretty good job. I mean, if anything, it's maybe a little bit low, but it's a tough one to bet. And I get it because, again, that first fight was pretty clear. It was a fun fight. Diego Lopez definitely had his moments in that fight, obviously, but it was a clear win for Volkanovski. The problem is he's not getting any younger. I mean, that's the truth. He's got to survive another 5 rounds with a very dangerous, one of the most dangerous guys in the division and Diego Lopez. I mean, he's proven it time and time again. Look at Jean Silva. It felt like he was doing okay, and then he got caught and he got put out by Lopez. Lopez has finished and has hurt a lot of talented fighters throughout his UFC career thus far. So he's just a dangerous guy, unorthodox, heavy-handed, has that crazy submission game as well. That's a little bit unorthodox. So it's the danger factor that you're playing with Lopez. And it's the fact that Volkanovski is coming off of 2 knockout losses. I know he bounced back against Lopez, but before that, he got knocked out twice. So again, I understand high caliber opponents. You got to give him credit for that because 2 of the best in the world that beat him, but it still kind of has an impact as he gets older. My question is how, you know what I mean? How long does his chin last, or how many more knockouts or whatever, how much more punishment can he absorb? He seemed to be okay in that last Lopez fight, but again, I'm thinking another 5 rounds, Lopez is going to have his moments again. So that's why you're playing with a little bit of fire here. And that's why I think the line is okay. And it's keeping me off right now because I think you kind of need to lean towards Lopez as far as the finish goes, or if it hits his scorecards, obviously you got to edge Volkanovski again because he's such a smart technical fighter. So it's a tough one for me, man, but I kind of understand it. You got to respect Lopez. He's been nothing but danger in that octagon, and he will be again.
Yeah, I just think it's the same situation leading into the last fight, except with more questions answered, meaning we knew that was how it was going to play out the first fight, that Volkanovski, if it goes to a decision, he was probably going to win the fight because he's going to outpoint Lopez, and that means he avoided the big shot more times than not. And for Lopez, if he lands, he'll be able to take him out of there. We had seen Volkanovski get finished back to back, but it didn't happen. And Lopez landed some big shots, and Volkanovski was able to take them, and he was able to avoid, getting finished. And that's what he does. So for me, I just think it's a Volkanovski or pass situation. I know how dangerous Lopez is. And he's always live because of that knockout power. You got maybe holding your breath for 25 minutes, but I just don't think the plus side is enough after seeing the way the first fight went to make me excited to be taking Lopez. Again, an older Volk, yeah, you got to factor that into the equation. But I just don't see reasons to be excited to fade Volk. I don't know, for me at least. Hooker, Saint Denis, I'll be quick. I just think this line's a little bit too high for Saint Denis. I think he's getting a little bit too much credit for that 3-fight win streak. The Rufi win, impressive, but Propolek hasn't won in the UFC yet. Dariush had only 1 fight in the last 2 years leading into that one. Like, the timing was good for not taking anything away from Saint Denis, but the timing was good. And I think there's a little recency bias in the price. And Hooker's game at that kind of price, I think it's dog or pass for me. You?
Absolutely dog or pass. I mean, because I do think Dan Hooker, a lot of people are going to think, oh man, he's a fish out of water on the ground. That's not true. Based on his recent performances, he lost to Sarukian. He's had some struggles on the ground throughout his career for sure, but his takedown defense is actually pretty good. He's got a submission game. He's not a fish out of water on the ground at all. And he's hard to hold down. So I think Dan Hooker here in this spot at plus 300-ish is what's floating around out there is ridiculous. He's the better striker. He's got a ton of experience. He's got some gas left in that tank for sure. He's going to be a dangerous, dangerous fight for BSD here. So for me, it's definitely a dog or pass. Anything above 2-1, to be honest with you, I think it's a dog or pass situation. And you're easily going to get over 2-1 in this fight here. So Hooker has been a great dog to bet in the past. He's cashed a lot of tickets for me. I think this is a nice sleeper spot for Dan Hooker to come in here, surprise some people, possibly finish BSD, obviously before it hits the scorecards as well. If not, I think it's going to be a competitive decision anyway. And I think he can win on the card. So for me, it's Dan Hooker for sure.
All right. How about we move along and look at some of these line moves, Nick? Do we follow, fade, or ignore? We got some moves. Again, after last week's pay-per-view, people are back into the groove in for MMA, and they're already firing away this week. Start off with a favorite that's flipped, and that's Fiziev and Rufi. Fiziev opened as the favorite, but that's no longer the case. He's now plus 105, plus 110, with the favorite now sitting about 120, 130, depending where you shop. And what should be a stand-up fight, even though we have seen Fiziev 6 takedowns secured over his last 2 fights, not necessarily the wrestler, but the last 2 fights he has secured a couple takedowns. What do you think? Is it dog or pass now, or is the steam right?
That's another tricky one, kind of, because early on the action came in of Fazeev. All the action came in on Fazeev, and it made Rufi a bigger bet. Now it's flipped back towards Rufi, and Rufi is a slight favorite, which he should be. This is a striker versus striker matchup. I feel like Rufi's a little bit longer. I think he's a little bit more slick on the feet, and he's a sniper as well. Both these guys are snipers. I mean, Fazeev's extremely dangerous to deal with on the feet, and he bounced back. He had a much needed win over a quality opponent in his last fight, and he got it. So it tells you what kind of caliber Fazeev is. He is getting better, as you mentioned, in the wrestling as well. I wouldn't be surprised if he shoots a takedown or two and tries to get this fight to the floor. Because, again, Rufi's submission defense in his ground game, he did look like a fish out of water.
Yeah. He gets controlled for 20% of the minutes. He takes
so
it down.
Yeah, that's why I think the difference is between Rufi and Dan Hooker that we were just talking about recently as well. Dan Hooker is not as much of a fish out of water on the ground as Rufi. Rufi is. So I think Fazeev can maybe mix in some takedowns. That's going to be the dangerous part. But if it's a striker versus striker matchup, which it should be for the most part, I do have to lean towards Rufi here. So I believe it is a Rufi or pass situation. All the way probably up to minus 145, minus 150 range. There's probably a little value in Rufi because, again, I think he's going to be longer. He's going to be a little slicker. Fazeev has shown some vulnerability defensively on the feet, and I think Rufi can present a lot of problems if Fazeev doesn't fight smart in this spot. So I do think Rufi's the right side. He should be a slight favorite in this spot. And as the line kind of goes his way, though, it is a little bit tougher to bet.
All right, this I got to ask you because I don't even know the dude. I actually bet him too. I moved for a couple originators. One of my guys gave me Sulangrambo, and we bet him as a favorite. Actually, he opened as a dog, and I don't mean to throw this curveball at you, Nick. Sorry, but I figure if anyone knows, you may know a little bit something, even about the line move. If you don't know too much about both these fighters, because both of them were on the road to the UFC.
Right.
But it was just such a big move, meaning that Lawrence Liu opened almost a 2-1 favorite. He's now a 2-1 dog. So that went from, the market saying he wins the fight 2 out of 3 times to now he loses it 2 out of 3 times. That's a huge swing. And like I said, one of the groups that I provide accounts for, they actually bet Sulangrambo, and they didn't bet him till minus 190, a minus 200. So it's not like they got him at a dog price or even 110, 120. They bet him at minus 200. And that's why he's now sitting at 260, 265. What's going on there?
No, a lot of sharp action did come in on that fight. It was just mispriced. Again, these tournament matchups, road to UFC, these are the type of fights, honestly, that you could definitely take advantage of because the lines.
You got to be early, though.
Yeah, early on for sure, especially. And then also, like, it's honestly kind of like a contender series fight or an LFA type of fight, too, because these lines aren't dug into as much. And myself included, honestly, it's been a busy. I'm not digging deep into these matchups either.
No,
but
the reason, Nick, I wanted to bring that up is not to put you in a curveball. The question is, then would we be confident following that steam? Like, is it comparable then to the draft where I like laying chalk in the draft? Because it's confirmed. Like I rather lay minus 400 the day of the draft than minus 180 3 days prior. And I rather get that confirmation the day of, where I'm so sure this guy's going number 3. I'm comfortable laying 400. Where 3 days prior at 180, I'm not too sure. Like, is it that sure, or is it because it's MMA? It isn't. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely have to be careful here now at this point, because again, you've seen it balloon up to like it's heading towards minus 300. But it tells you something when sharps are hitting minus 190, minus 200 as well. That's how far off the line was now. But at this point, though, you have to definitely sorry, I had my phone going off here. You have to definitely respect the money that's coming in that way. And it seems like he's probably the right side for sure. But again, there's no way I can tell you guys to follow the steam there. I think you get away from it. The sports books obviously are going to be rooting for the dog now to win, to pull off that upset and be right. Because look, as an odds maker, I've been in that spot many times setting an original number and the line got flipped on me. And I'm thinking, man, the guy got so much pride. You know what? Everybody's crazy. They're wrong. You know what I mean? And then you want this thing to play out your way. And more times than not, I used to get a lot of people, like as far as, when these type of numbers came out and originated and went out on my desk. So I liked it. I like that kind of challenge, to be honest with you. So you got to respect the odds makers.
I do. Yes, sure.
Somebody saw something in that to put the line out that crazy. But again, honestly, I think overall as a whole, there's vulnerabilities in sports books. You know what I mean? Whether it's, somebody sets a line and then there's employees that actually have to move the line. It's not always, that person responds. So there's a lot of things that go into the equation. But right now is what I'm saying. Long story short, stay away from it. The value has definitely been extracted there, but it's probably going to end up being the right side, I would think, more times than not.
Gotcha. Last but not least, got to bring this one in. Cam Roston coming off back-to-back finishes. Impressive first round finishes after his Contender Series first fight, lost by decision. Brundage, 1 win in his last 4 fights at high plus money. What do we do?
Oh man, you know what? It's one of these things where now again, it's where it's hard to bet Roasting at this spot because I think Brundage is a little bit underrated. As crazy as it sounds, he's just not a big time fan favorite, but he's got some power, he's got some wrestling, he's got some submission skills. He's a dangerous dude, and when he's on and he's motivated, I mean, you got to be careful. And Roston, I'm not completely sold on him yet either. So again, you know what it is? I feel like the line move and everything is automatically like there's been some performances that fans just can't get behind Brundage. So he's not a popular fan favorite. In fact, I think he's almost a heel as far as in the UFC goes. And I believe the fans kind of impact that and show it in the betting market sometimes as well. So that's why you cannot, I would stay away from it. If anything, it probably brings some value into Brundage now with the line move, you know what I mean? Him as a dog maybe. But again, how confident are you? Because there's times where the fight IQ comes into play and you can't trust these guys, man. You cannot trust these guys. So for me, this is kind of a one you kind of circle and say, hey, stay away from him. Even if you feel like there's a little bit of value there, you know how frustrating it is when you see a guy winning the fight, doing what he's supposed to do, and then lays a huge egg because of a mistake he made in a fight that you're thinking, are you kidding me? Why did you go for that takedown? Or why did you were winning the fight this way? Why did you do that? And he ends up losing the fight. So that's kind of with the feel for Brundage. So that's why, again, for me, I'm staying away from it.
Love it. Great stuff. Great stuff once again from Nick. We're going to be right back with our guest of the week. We are back with our guest of the week segment. No introduction needed. Another repeat guest and a good friend of the show, Art C, better known on Twitter. Make sure you follow him on social media. It's Mr. Electrocute. Gotta love that. Let me spell it out because, you know me, English is my second language. It's Mr. MR Electrocute, ELECTRICUTE. Simple. Mr. Electrocute. Make sure you give the man a follow. Not only does he document his long-term results, but he also shares a lot of premium stuff for free, which is awesome. It's not just bait, like let me hook you in and get guys. It's because he understands, like I've learned in this industry, not every bankroll can sustain or support paying for information, but that still doesn't mean you can't provide content for everyone. And that's exactly what you've been doing, man. You're doing a great job. Congratulations. And I just wish you continue to grow because it's very well deserved, my man. Welcome back, Art.
Thanks again. I love being on here and having me talking UFC fights with the professionals. And like you said, last year was an absolute great year, but it's been consistent, right? It's year over year, and it's not one big parlay. It's, consistent wins. I put in the work, a lot of tape study, a lot of stats, not a lot of analysis, and it just shows the results are there. So always happy to join you guys and chop up fights with you guys.
I see that you plow into a lot of the smaller markets too. Do you have trouble getting down, Art, on those props?
Yeah, my wife calls me a drug dealer because I have like 8 or 9 different phones, and it's just you run through accounts like nothing, right? And sportsbooks hate winners, so you have to like think outside the box in order to get money down. The smaller markets, especially with UFC stuff, like not a lot of people are betting UFC, and when they are, they're not betting like especially some of the smaller markets, but those markets are some of the most beatable markets there. So it's just part of the game, and it's part of doing business is spending some of the bankroll to get additional accounts or outs and phones and accounts and deadlines. It's just it's a whole other effort that people don't really know or think about, but it's a real struggle sometimes.
I want to say this and just put this on records. I've done this for a very long time, 3+ decades, and Nick's been in the game as long as I have, if not longer. And the negative side that I've seen is like when guys are able to penetrate those small markets and destroy them, and are specialists even in particular sports, and they're able to monetize it like you're doing, The negative starts to be from the bigger guys. Oh, those are smaller markets, or not everyone. Can you get down? And to me, that's just all nonsense. When you find an inefficiency, you exploit it. It's your
Yep.
job to get down. It's not Art's job to get your money down. It's his job to help find the inefficiency. And if he's willing to share it, that's even better. But it's not your responsibility to get people down. That's the game. That took me 30 plus years to develop the network to be able to get down on winning stuff. That's the
Yep.
art of being a plus EV better. So I don't think there should be any negative to what anyone's betting. I don't care if you're beating female cricket in Uganda. Keep betting female cricket in Uganda then and find a way to get down. That's how I look at it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, if you can beat the books, like why not, right? And the books, their job is to offer lines for everything, and our job is just to pick off the ones that have value, right? So I'm a value better. I'll find anything. I'll bet on anything that has value in it. So you'll see me a wide variety of props, same game parlays. It's not just money line. It's takedown strikes. It's whatever. Like I'll bet on somebody with their bleed or if they'll throw how many punches. I would if I could. Just those markets are so small, right? But because they're smaller, but they're very inefficient. And part of that is that you have to either get around limits or find a way to get down. Because as soon as the sportsbook see you start playing those markets, they're somewhat trapped because they're like, only sharps play this market, or who's betting $1,000 on this type of bet? They must be sharps. Or it sort of flags the account a little bit. So you have to work in like ways of getting under the radar a little bit, and account longevity and stuff, right? So you learn as you go. But it's part of the game, like you said. And just if you're women's ping pong, women's cricket, just be a specialist, right? And corner the market and be the best.
Find the liquidity somewhere and bet into it. That's what I say. Now, before Nick dives in here and before we talk 325, I got to get your opinion on this because it's been a topic of conversation of late, and that's parlays. You mentioned parlays. You mentioned same game parlays. I know in MMA there are many documented bettors who have turned a profit with parlay, and how can you argue that if someone's making money? It's hard to argue that. With all of that said, we know with certainty that the majority of profit for sports books comes from parlays. That is why they push them the way they do. And upwards of 30-40% of the sports books hold comes from parlays compared to 5% for straight bets. With that said, like I know you look to find those inefficiencies in parlays. What do you say to the recreational bettor? Should they
Uh,
be messing with parlays?
Generally, no. All the parlay does is just roll the profit from one bet into another, right? And generally with fights, because they're one after the other, they're not correlated, so they really don't have anything to do with each other. You're just rolling it forward, right? So generally, I would say stick to straight bets. A lot of people think that they have to get to plus 100, so they're adding 4 or 5 legs to get there. I'm not really of that school of thought. So I might stick with 1 or 2 parlays. I might do some long shots. I know a lot of people like parlays, so I will advertise some longer shot parlays. But generally, I stick to money lines and such. I did talk about same game parlays. Same game parlays is a little bit different because you can find. Okay, so with same game parlays, it's all within one fight, and you can find correlation within the fight to sort of build up the odds. So, for example, Volkanovski to win by decision might be like plus 130, but if you add in like Volkanovski 2 takedowns and wins by decision, or most significant strikes and wins by decision and whatnot, you can build it up to like plus 500, plus 400, right? So, the thing is that somebody like DraftKings, they've offered these same game parlay lines. They were inefficient, and they were starting to get like we made a lot of money on same game parlays this year, and it was because they've started offering those two-way lines, like most significant strikes, most takedowns, where you can either bet one side or the other. They've sort of smartened up, and now they're only offering one-way lines, so it's only overs. You can only bet over 100 strikes, 200 strikes, and because it's one-way lines, they can set the lines wherever they want. So More recently, I'm finding it harder to find value. I'll go in there, I'll play around, and it'll only add like 10 cents by if I add, 100 significant strikes. So generally, you have to play with it and say, that's not worth it. I can just take decision straight up. Why would I need the requirement of 100 significant strikes as well? But if you can find two-way markets, that's probably how you beat them, because you go, the secret is you go negative correlation. So you might go like, no knockdowns, but win by TKO. And you say, how do you do that? Well, somebody like Volkanovski likes to ground and pound in half guard. He can find a finish on the ground, or you can get a referee stoppage. And there's where you get, you beat the algorithm a little bit, because the algorithm says, how are you going to get a knockout without knocking him down? But there are ways. So, that sort of things, submissions without takedowns, that sort of things. But if they don't offer those two-way markets, it's very hard.
Thank you for explaining that to me, because that's exactly what I thought. And I know guys that I respect who made a lot of money, and they did it parlaying, but with same game parlays, just like you said. And that was their argument, that it was correlated. And I was trying to think correlation, but it makes perfect sense, because it's kind of like even with sides and totals, they could be correlated. Like you see big favorites with a short total in college football, -40 with a total of 48. If the favorite wins, it should go over. It's not guaranteed, but it should. So I get it, and especially with when you're able to do it inside the same game, inside the same fight, that makes sense. And you're saying they're really making that market a lot harder by now only offering one way. That's the way to shut that down. Makes sense. Nick, dive in here, because then I want to talk a little 325.
Dropping a lot of knowledge, Art. I love it.
Yeah, gold. That was gold. That was gold. I wanted that clear clarification with the parlays. That was good.
I'm going to segue into that. I want to know about your site out there. A lot of people probably do that are listening as well. So can you tell us more about Fighting Stats and your community that you're building? And honestly, it's time for you to shine a little bit. And you're a humble guy. You're not out there, bragging about your winnings, but you had a monster year last year. You were one of the best cappers for sure that was out there. Like Gianni said, giving out even free information. So, you deserve definitely a lot of credit for what you're doing out there. So I want to kind of shine that spotlight on you right now. So give yourself a little shout with your website and tell us what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah. So last year, absolute record-breaking year. I tried to break 400, didn't get there. Ended up 369 units, 26% ROI, and that was across straight bets, prop bets, same game parlays, long shot parlays, everything there. And the reason for that is that we here at Fighting Stats, we track and we manually try to figure out, like in my capping, I wanted to know how many times they throw a jab or how many times they throw a kick, what position they're in. Right? UFC stats only gives so much information. It says 10 significant strikes, but what does that actually mean? Were they jabs? Were they head kicks? It doesn't really say. So I went on a quest to sort of get that information myself. I have guys that work full time around the clock, data scientists that collect that information for me. And what I'm all really trying to do is sell that information back to say, if you want some information or you want the same data that I have that I've been using, then by all means sign up at patreon.com/fighting stats. I share the data. And then what I also try to do is just show you that with this data, there is a huge edge over the sportsbooks. So the sportsbooks don't have this information. So I use it involved with my capping skills or with my tape study, and it really gives me a huge edge. So I package it with my bets. It wasn't specifically meant to be just my bets. It was more to get the value out of the stats and the data. And I'm paying out of pocket. I'm paying out of my bankroll. So I'm really just trying to share it to say, if you think that you would have some value in it too, come take along, tag along. I'll share it with you. We'll collect it, and as the time goes on, that database grows and grows. And so now we're trying to do some more predictive analytics, trying to get more out there. But it really helps with the tape study to see what it shows on paper, and it really translates to a huge edge. And again, the results show for itself. It wasn't just last year, 2024. I was another 100 units, 2023. Big year as well. And even live betting, we made another 100 units there. So we're just killing it all around. It's just we put in the work, we put in the time study, we took all the stats all together. It gives us a huge edge. And again, I try to share that. I try to do some YouTubes. This weekend I was doing a YouTube stream, a live betting stream. So I've been killing live betting. So I was telling you guys, this is what I'm betting on, this is what I'm looking for, this fighter does this, I'm going to bet on it. So all of that's there. Fighting Stats.com on YouTube. You can check it out there, and just the breakdowns that I share pre-fight, the analysis during it. It's second to none in terms of the quality and the analysis that you're getting.
talking about, man. Love it.
Absolutely love it, bro.
Yeah. And I feel proud because I feel like we're one of the first people that discovered you, so to speak. Correct. So that's what this
Yeah,
show does.
I'm learning
We've
from the
had a
best. Yeah.
lot of talent, a lot of people that, a lot of times not necessarily we get a shot to be on UFC Fight Pass or to be, you know what I mean, on at this level, I guess you would say, and you're deserving for sure to be on.
Very well deserved, bro. Very well
Thank you
deserved.
very much.
One of the sharpest minds when it comes to betting MMA, for sure, for sure. And speaking of betting MMA, Volkanovski, Lopez too. Me and Nick were talking about this, so we talked to you like we're friends talking on the
Yeah.
phone.
Oh, yeah.
So viewers, forgive me if it's not as a professional interview as you may be used to. We're just going to tell it like it is with Art. Me and Nick were talking, and we were just a little bit confused. Like, again, at the line of the main event, because we saw the first fight, and I'm big on not putting too much stock in any one outcome. With all that said, the questions going into that fight was Volkanovski. He had come off back-to-back knockouts. He was older. Lopez was coming in on good form. And the question was, what does Volk have left? So he opened as a minus 130 favorite. I thought that was a little low because I thought if he had anything left, this line should be a lot higher. I bet Volkanovski, the line moved in that favor, got some closing line value, and he got the job done. Gets the title. Now there's the rematch. The line comes out lower than more or less where it closed last time. I look at the box score from the first fight. It was domination. I get it. Lopez is the bigger puncher. We knew that going in. If he lands the big shot, he could be the difference maker, but he didn't. And Volkanovski outlanded him by a ridiculous amount almost every single round. Why is this line where it is? Like, why isn't it closer to that minus 200? Am I seeing it wrong? Like, I want to bet Volkanovski, but that scares me that it's not higher.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Yeah, and it comes down to I think it's obviously it's recency bias coming into the first fight. It was Volkanovski, like you said, back-to-back knockout losses, but that was Islam and that was Topuria, one of the top two pound for pound guys, right? And Lopez is a big power puncher, but we saw in that fight Volkanovski took some big shots from Lopez and he stayed in there, never really got wobbled, and like you said, he completely dominated, right? So if I can go into just some of the numbers there, what really we learned from that fight is that Volkanovski's style, he's that orthodox. He stays way outside in kicking range. He has a high kick rate, 36% kicking rate, right? And he uses that low kick. Diego Lopez kind of struggled. Like he took the center of the octagon and he let Volkanovski dictate when the exchanges happened, right? So Volkanovski will circle around, he'll enter it, and then he'll sit down a couple of combos, 1, 2, and then he's back out, right? And that was Lopez's best chance, is really to like get after him, right? So Lopez sort of sits there, he sort of loads up on the counter and he just throws 1, 2, 1, 2 sort of thing. And Lopez was landing here and there, but Volkanovski, like you said, outpointed him. Um, uh, 60% head strike accuracy for Volkanovski, whereas Lopez was only 28%. Volkanovski had 136 strikes to the 49 strikes, and like the leg kicks almost doubled there, right? So it was Volkanovski was the clear minute winner in that fight. Diego Lopez needed moments. He had one big moment in round 2 where he like sort of knocked him down, sort of won the round there. That really sealed that round for him. But other than that one moment, it was all Volkanovski. Even down into the 5th round where Lopez started coming forward. It really started pushing the pace. You can see that Volkanovski didn't like the pressure too much, but still outlanded him quite a bit and was on his way to a decision win there. The other thing that you can really take away from Volkanovski is that he landed everything: the overhand right, the left hook, the 1, 2. He hit him with everything in the kitchen sink. Lopez did not even get wobbled. He just ate it and continued to get forward. We saw it in the John Silva fight, right? John Silva throwing everything at him as well, and just Diego Lopez has it and just has a granite chin and stuff, right? So they say two fights are never the same or the rematch is never the same, but in this time, I kind of think it might be. I don't think there's many adjustments for Diego Lopez here. I think what he has to do, the best case for him, is repeat round number 5, where he just said threw caution to the wind, says my power is better than yours, my chin is better than yours, and just create chaos and just come out swinging, trying to hurt him right away. Because if you try to fight a technical fight at range with Volkanovski, he's just going to pick you apart like he does. He's just faster, more dynamic, more kicks, all that stuff. The clear minute winner here. So yeah, Lopez is going to need a lot of big moments here to win this, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. Uh, Co-main event, big line here for Hooker. Saint Denis, since switching camps, has been on fire now. 3 straight W's, impressive fashion. What do you think? You think this line's too high, or
I do. I think that this fight comes down to the fight IQ and the takedown defense of Dan Hooker. Like he sort of struggles with grapplers, and for some reason, this is like the back-to-back-to-back grappler he's fought. He's fought Armin and Gamrot, and fought grapplers in 4 of the last 5 fights. And BSD brings a big grappling game. And Hooker obviously has a striking advantage. He has the better head strike accuracy, better volume, better chin. Oh, well, both of them have granite chins, but it comes really down to the takedowns of BSD. The one thing that I will note, Dan Hooker had a very close fight against Gamrot. Gamrot being a high level wrestler, but that's what he is. He doesn't have a ton of control. And Armin Sarukian, actually, Hooker did actually pretty good in the takedown defense against Armin Sarukian. It's just when Armin grabs a single leg, Dan Hooker defaults to a guillotine, and he pulled guillotine twice, and he gave up the takedown. Armin Sarukian was able to spin out of the takedown, or out of the guillotine choke, and then end up on top. The concerning part for Hooker is that he wasn't able to get up underneath Armin in rounds 1 and 2. Armin ends up finding the submission there. But again, Armin's a pretty high level grappler as well. BSD's up there in terms of his control and such. So it really comes down to, can Hooker get up? I found in the tape study, whenever Hooker was on the fence, he was able to wall walk, get himself back up. But if he got taken down in the middle of the cage, definitely struggled a little bit more to get up. So this is going to be the minutes versus moments. I think it could look similar to the Hooker Gamrot fight, where Hooker needs to get back up, needs to do damage when it's standing, and when it's down, just either negate the damage and get back up. Or it could look like BSD versus Ruffy, right? In that fight, Ruffy's a similar striker to Hooker, and that he has a lot of power, but he is susceptible to the ground. A lot of unknowns there, and BSD was able to get him down, control him, and end up finding the submission there. One thing I will say, and I went back and looked at it. So BSD ends up submitting Ruffy by neck crank, right? He had the rear naked choke. He doesn't even need it to go under the chin. He just puts it on the chin and the mouth, and he just has a ridiculous squeeze that he was able to finish it by neck crank. So then I go back and I look at the other times that he's gotten the rear naked choke, right? He stubbed Nicholas Stolz and he stubbed Ismail Bonfim almost the exact same way. As soon as he gets the back, as long as he gets the choke in and it's on the mouth, he just has a ridiculous squeeze where he can get in the choke, and they're tapping to neck cranks and stuff, right? So it's not even a guillotine that he needs to get under it. It's also the squeeze that he has in the arm triangle. So when he gets you down to the ground, he'll look for the arm triangle or the rear naked choke. Dan Hooker he struggles against grapplers here. So I do think it's probably BSD, but I do agree that the line is a little bit wide. I think that BSD probably in the 200 range, 250 range. I think he's up to 330 now. It's a little bit too high. You might get some value. I I did play some Hooker by split decision at plus 1800. I thought that was kind of wide because Hooker, again, we know that BSD has a granite chin, and Hooker's never going to submit BSD. So most of his win equity is tied to a decision anyway. And 3 of the last 4 decision wins for Dan Hooker were split decisions. He had a split against Gamrod, split against Jalen Turner. He has that time sort of like enter the pocket, just create chaos. That it's live for split decisions. At plus 1800, I like to take small stabs, but I do think that BSD probably submits him, but I just don't like the price.
I like it. I like it. All right, like I always do before we let you out of here, the floor is yours. Anything else jump out at the board that you like to share with the viewers for 325?
The easiest one for me is I think the tie to Ivasa, Talis, and Shishiro. Like I look at all the stats. I look at what we see on tape. Tai Tuivasa ballooned up to like 350 pounds, and now he's back down. Just there's nothing super impressive for Tai Tuivasa, and I think this looked like the Derek Lewis Waldo Acosta fight that we just seen. Just a big striker with the hands, no real kicks, no real takedown defense, no real grappling upside. Just needs big power, and then you're facing a lot longer, rangier type striker with good volume, decent cardio, good decent grappling upside. Like Waldo Taliesin Teixeira, he's a Muay Thai guy, so he has nice elbows in the clinch. He took out Junior Tafa in the clinch with elbows. He has a nice long jab. He works the kicks. He also tried to take down Junior Tafa there, so it wouldn't surprise me if he tries to grapple here and get tied down to the ground. Taliesin Teixeira by submission is sneaky, but just because we haven't seen it, but it's such a clear path for him, to take Tai Tuivasa down. Tai struggles against grapplers as well. Tai got submitted by Volkov by Ezekiel choke. When's the last time you saw Alexander Volkov submit anybody, especially Ezekiel choke, right? So there's a clear path there. Taliesin Teixeira has all the upside. He's better everywhere, longer, faster, rangier, more dynamic. He just has to watch the chin. He got caught by Derek Lewis. He was getting up. The referee was like, it was a sort of a quick stoppage. If that fight extends a little bit more, but I think this is all to Taliesin Teixeira here.
I so agree with that. You just confirmed it for me. I love that side. I thought it should be closer to 400. Like at least 4 out of 5 times he wins this fight, he doesn't get caught on the chin. That's how I was looking at it, at least. So yeah, thank you for that. Great stuff, man. No surprise. Art C, Mr. Electrocute on social media. Make sure you give him a follow, support the man, and more importantly, going to get a lot of good information out of it. That's for sure, man. Keep putting out that content, Art. Best of luck and continued success ahead, bro. And can't wait to have you on again.
Thanks again, obviously, for having me. I love this stuff. I love talking fights. I do all the tape study and stuff anyway. Actually, if you subscribe to our Patreon chat, I actually turn on the camera when I'm doing my tape study. So as I'm watching tape, I'll actually share my screen. I'll say what I'm looking at, where I like it, and I'll actually try to set the lines. I do it in real time, and then after our tape study, I'll look at the line. I try to set my own lines. That's the secret, is that I don't look at the lines that influence me. I watch all the tape. I look at all the stats. I set my lines of where I think they should be, and then when the lines come out, I can right away jump on them to say that one's real off in terms of value, and then I do that in real time. I actually host it for free. So if you're a free member at patreon.com/fighting stats, you can watch it when I do it just in the evenings and stuff. And then I put out the plays and bets there. So a lot of values. And again, on YouTube, sometimes I'll do a live betting stream. On Patreon, I'll do it for our members where we'll share it, we'll live bet together. So there's a ton of value that you're getting in that. So check it out. You won't be disappointed. A lot of people are very happy with what they get.
Great stuff from Art C. Thanks again for spending some time with us. Best of luck on 325 and the rest of the year and ahead, brother. Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you, guys.
All right. It's that time of the week. We may get that nugget of information not factored into the betting line, giving us a slight or big edge, depending. James, what do you got for us this week?
Little bit of a lighter edition this week for LynchBits. Just 2 interviews. Did get a chance to speak to Quinlan Salkid, obviously coming off that huge knockout over Nasrat Haqparast last year, and almost didn't get to fight on this card. If you guys remember, he was supposed to fight Rongzhu. He's out of the fight. They find Jamie Malarkey for him. Quinlan, one of the biggest favorites. Quinlan, I should say, one of the biggest favorites on this card coming into action here on Saturday. But if you talk to him, he doesn't feel that way. He is given a lot of respect here to Malarkey. Always felt like he was going to be on this card. Wasn't that worried that he wouldn't get to be on here, although, obviously I'm sure a lot of guys are not lining up to fight him either. Malarkey's a gamer, and, big thing for him is just, being able to fight close to home, knows the opportunity he has, and knows that he had a monster 2025. If he can go out there and get another big finish, we might start seeing him get some of these ranked opponents here. So I think for him, it's really just about getting the win. When I asked him for a prediction in this fight, he wasn't, overly confident or anything like that and saying like, I'm going to finish this quickly. He gave sort of like a second or third round finish, but does feel like he will get his arm race here. Again, you can watch the full interview on my channel, youtube.com/LynchOnSports under the UFC 325 playlist. And then the only other interview I had was Cody Brundage. So a couple things with Cody, obviously taking on Cam Roston, who's part of that city kickboxing team with Israel Adesanya and Volk and all them. Big thing for Cody is, lots of notice for this fight. This was a fight that was supposed to happen before, so pretty familiar with the opponent. And first time for Cody fighting outside of North America, but he's all prepped for it, ready to go. Gonna have, I believe, still Dustin Jacoby in his corner, despite the fact that Dustin lost his fight with Jimmy Crute. Jacoby got rebooked, I think, later this year as well. But, the big thing for Cody is just putting what he puts in the gym into the fight. He's had a lot of weird fights, no contests, all that stuff. For him, it's about really just showing his ability in the cage and hopes to do that in this fight. And he really likes the fact that, listen, he's been in there with a lot better opponents than Cam Roston in this fight. So I think for Brundage, it's really about stepping up to the plate, showing the UFC is worth it. And another little sort of added tidbit here, Brendan's going to be a dad again. So a lot of motivation going into this fight for him, looking to provide for his family and pick up a nice paycheck there. So lighter edition of LynchBits this week, but again, always focus on the quality here. You can find those interviews again, youtube.com/LynchOnSports under the UFC 325 playlist.
No surprise, good stuff from James once again. We're going to be right back with best bets of the week. All right, it's that time of the week. We get to put up our best bets. You know how we do it. We narrow down our top favorite, top dog, top prop. We can bet size between $0 and $300, which allows us to pass. If we don't have a favorite, we simply pass and move on to a dog because the goal is plus EV winning information for you. And Nick, why don't you start us off? You had the profit last week. Do you have a favorite for this week?
I do, and it's going to be Jonathan Mikhailov at -130 right now. I think the price is a little short. It should be upwards to maybe closer to -200, to be honest with you. He's taking on Oban Elliott. Again, I think Mikhailov's kind of sliding under the radar a little bit. He's going to have a little bit of length in this fight. I think he's going to be a step ahead on the feet. He's got a good ground game to go along with it. So I think he's just a problematic matchup for Oban Elliott, honestly. And I don't think Elliott's going to have too much of a threat. He'll be competitive and he'll have his moments in time, but I think Mikhailov is the right side here. So -130, I'll go 130 to win $100 on Jonathan Mikhailov.
All right, I like it. I'm going to go ahead and fade Fiziev in this spot. I'm not all that concerned with his wrestling. I get it. He got the takedowns in his last fight, looking impressive. I got to give him that. I mean, beating Bahamondes, who's always dangerous. And the losses prior to that were twice the Gaethje and then the Gamrot. So like very, very respectable losses. But I just think in the stand-up, he's going to find himself in a disadvantage against the younger Rufi, who's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage as well, 3 inches in height, and a lot of edge in power. His knockdown rate is almost 10x that of Fiziev, who, knowing he's a striker, that's a telling sign. And the one thing with Rufi is we know he's got the chin that should hold up here. So for me, I'm going to go ahead and lay that 120 is the best price out there. I'll lay 360 to win 300. I don't have a dog, so that's it for me. Do you have an underdog, Nick?
I got to put my money where my mouth is with Dan Hooker at +300. 100 to win 300 on Hooker is the bet. Again, I understand everybody's going to come in here thinking BSD is going to take him down and submit. I don't think so. I think Hooker's going to be able to survive those probable moments, and he's going to end up doing enough damage, possibly finishing BSD along the way. So for me, +300 is ridiculous. I think it should be closer to 200. So come on, man. I got to take a stab at Dan Hooker. 100 to win 300. He's been profitable for me in the past, and I think he's going to be this weekend as well.
All right. Any prop?
No props at this moment, but we will have, again, a little segue into UFC on the line that's live on Friday. Gianni and I will both have some props on that show.
We will have a top prop for sure. For sure.
So it's cool. So you guys get our information kind of early here a little bit, and then it evolves before Friday. Obviously, the event's on Saturday as well. Things change. Lines tend to change. The amounts might change. There's a lot of things that can happen between now and then. So it's good to watch both shows and check them out.
Yeah, I'm excited to be taping on Friday this week. So that's going to do it for us. And again, want to thank Bart and James as well. And whether you follow or fade, I hope you cash them, don't trash them, do some damage this weekend. Nick, get us out of here.
As always, thank you guys for your support. Let's cash some tickets this weekend, but more importantly, enjoy the fights. We'll see you guys next time.